Alright, well, it's another Sunday. Time for some more Deep Rock Galactic. I'll be booting up the game. Oh, yeah, I gotta... Ooh, someone added me. You should see it popping up in any second on the screen here. There we go. Someone added me, right? We'll accept that. You gotta be on Steam and online if you want to play with me today. I'll be inviting people in just a second. How's it going, Johnny 5K? For real?
Must remember to get my clothes washed. Rockin' stove!
Alright. Ugh. Eggs. Hate the egg hunts. Not a lot of people online right now, that's for sure. What time is it? It's the right time. Hey, Knat, how's it going? How are things? I don't have all the new weapons yet, but I did get some of the overclocks for them. So this one... By using a highly volatile injection fuel, the trail radius greatly increases. And at a full charge, pushes the temperature changes so high it heats up anything in it. Huge amounts of energy required, reduces charge time, and battery capacity. I'm guessing it says the huge amounts of energy required reduces charge time. Yeah, what they mean is reduces charge rate, right? It literally increases charge time. They got a little bit of a typo in their new little typo in their new patch. Oh, I'm doing pretty well, Knat. Just kind of hanging out. So diffusion ray with some mechanical stress to the heat generator. With some mechanical stress to the heat generator, the microwaves can penetrate deeper, being able to go through several enemies at once and slows them down. However, the stress takes its toll on the generator and decreases its damage output significantly. Oh.
Forging weapon overclock.
Well, there's that. So the way it works is if I make this stuff. Oh, did it say slightly? Oh, well, can't read. So if I make these, this bar fills up and I get this. So if I make this hat.
Time to make space in the closet.
What? Oh, time to make space in the closet. That's what he said. So now I should get another thing. Oh, I can choose who I want it for. Wow. That's new. That's new with this patch. Braided Abundance. Just spectacular. For the elder dwarf, proud of his heritage, stoic in his beliefs, does imply a certain level of vanity. Oh, okay. Braided Abundance.
Can't wait to try it out.
Whoops. All right. Take a look at that one. Right over here. Go engineer. Click on the second one. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. What was I going with? Oh, I was going with this one before, right? Yeah, this one's pretty good. Alright, well, I think it might be just you and me, KNAT, for this first mission. You have... yeah, we could do this one.
Drop pod is cleared. Warm up. Time to get to work, team.
Well...
Around the Backbreaker Stout to celebrate.
Alright.
Oh, yeah.
Go get your beer.
Yeah.
Then we'll go.
Get on board. We're about to
Drop
land.
sequence initiating. Fasten
Ando is listening at work. Oh, well, don't let me distract you too much. Don't get in trouble.
Give me a rock and stone. Rock and stone, everyone.
Alright. I need to turn a light on. I need more energy. I need some lights on in here. 1 second.
If we die, I love you guys.
Stop whining.
Alright.
Get
Yeah,
ready.
it feels better. Feels more like day. Also, I should have gotten some water before this. Oh my god.
This is a salvage mission. A previous crew lost their mini mules, their drop pod, and
Uh-oh.
their lives in this
Oh,
cave.
not a big hole.
Find the repair
Thought this
lost
was gonna be a
mules,
big hole.
Get the drop pod operational, and return to base. Expect
Too late.
heavy infestation, and try not to mess it up like your former colleagues.
By the way, just so you know, if you land on another dwarf, you don't take any fall damage. So sometimes with some of you guys, I've like stood under you when you're like on a ledge or something. Just if you do want to drop directly down onto me.
Hey, I ain't one of them.
If you
They're
don't
tree
rock and
climbing
stone,
halfwit.
you ain't coming home.
How's it going, Piers and Patrick? What do we got here? Oh, this is the fungus bogs. Too late. Got it myself. Do dwarves... or Johnny 5K says, would you say dwarves only listen to hard rock and metal? I don't know. I feel like there might be some hard rock, metal, maybe some traditional dwarven music, which I imagine is something like, oh, what's that one? Like Papa. What is that
Let's
stuff
get
called?
the minerals.
Nitra! I'm with you, you goblin bastard!
Leave no
See?
dwarf behind.
Look at that. Took no damage from the fall. Oh yeah, polka. Polka. I bet you there's some dwarven polka. Whoa! Here's a thing. Uh-oh. I hear Magterra.
What's this?
Lights up!
So hard rock and polka. I think there's probably a lot of that going on. Oh, look at there. There's some nitro
Find the
that you can grab.
ammo.
Don't shoot me!
John Doe says they listen to Avril and Pink. Skater boy?
That's gonna cost you a round of baseball.
Patrick says, I thought you were singing Hanson. Bop. No, not Hanson. Not bop. 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 No. Papa. 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 It's like this. Like, I don't know, sort of. It's like that. There's like a basic folk rhythm, right? So these Magterra, once you freeze them, anything flying in this game, the moment it's frozen, that's instant death. This is one of the reasons I like to bring the cryo cannon. bring the cryo cannon basically everywhere other than the frozen place.
Take out that Mactera.
Mule is functional again. Great work.
The Brundles are annoying because they have armor. They're harder to take out than all the other Macteras to everything other than freezing them. Wow, we've gotten a lot of these barley bulbs.
No more rum. Time for the
Yeah, I've already gotten 3, and this is the 4th one. Normally don't see that many in a mission. Uh-oh.
lighting up.
Explosives.
Oh.
Sometimes I
So the Spitballer, as you can see, it's not actually turning to face me. That's some sort of glitch with the new patch.
mind your bloody fire. Your funeral's gonna be a sober occasion.
All right, and we got one of these.
Send ass over here and hurry.
So machine event. This one is the pickaxe overcharger. We should be able to do this one.
Team, you secured yourself a nice bonus.
Nero says, are enemies in the frozen biome more resistant to the cryo cannon? Yeah. So if we look at, there's the miner's manual, planetary region, glacial strata. You know, this is the cold place. These are the minerals that you can get there. Continental plates of Hoxie's rest on top of a planet-wide permafrost layer several miles deep. As always, DRG recommends a don't ask approach when dealing with the peculiarities of Hoxie's makeup. So this is a very cold place. You can get cold damage on you with these vents in the wall, and the Praetorians actually release cold clouds instead of their normal poison clouds, so they'll actually freeze you. And they're harder to freeze. Everything in that biome is harder to freeze there. Like, you look here, I have, in my lower right, I have 290, like, ammo left.
Watch and
Well,
learn.
to defeat all the enemies that I hid here in that biome, I'd be even lower in ammo. It would take longer, I would have taken more damage. Okay, so here's the Ebonite Glyphids. We have to... He says that we have to take them out with our pickaxes. Really, what we must do is take them out with physical attacks. So the pickaxe is the obvious one. But... you see there, my throwing axes work. I'm not using explosive-based grenades in this class. I'm using... I can use the throwing axes and my drills. So you got those little Ebonite Glyphids, those. That's 1 point. And then this, that's 2 points, I believe. I think these can be frozen, but they don't take damage from being frozen like normal stuff, right? It does stop them, though. You will sometimes see drillers pull out their cryo cannon for this fight just to freeze everything or freeze everything else. Like, stuff like this. Throw this down, freeze a bunch of that. Okay, so these little packs on the wall make it so you can use your power attack basically over and over.
Rock and stone.
Alright.
You did it. Core infuser active.
And I'll take an overclock for the engineer.
Getting sploised.
Here's Taylor says... Dwarven bagpipe music and sword dancing. Ooh.
Yeah. Getting more ammo.
Honestly, I don't know anything about polka. I've just heard some, you know. So I don't know. I recognize it when I hear it. The only thing I know is the Polka King in the Midwest. Except I forget his name. It was played by John Candy in some movie. Is it some movie about traveling? I'm just gonna take the other thing here, since this is in a really inconvenient location.
The mules are
I mean, it
back.
was okay to put down there,
Follow
but
and let's get that drop pod fixed. Remember, you can always deposit on the side of the drop pod.
I'm gonna just go right down through here. Does it take more damage from melee when frozen? I'm not sure. Okay.
All mules secured. Now to get the pod working. First,
So, Slot says he's annoyed about Team Fortress 2 white erasing the demo man. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't think anyone there had anything, anything, like, super malicious going on. They sort of wanted to have fun with it. But, yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, you have all these cultural forces building up in one direction. And it's just one in the big pile. We could do a bunker for this. Yeah. KNet's thinking about a bunker. I wanted to check down what's down here, though. Okay. That doesn't go anywhere. Nowhere where we haven't been already. I just wanted to grab some of this. So, let's see. Bunker, huh? Sure. I'll put the waypoint there, and we'll just tunnel in. Well... Okay. So now I just have to... Let me see here. If I go straight forward... Okay, I'm not deep enough. Now I should be deep enough. Okay, there's the little circle thing. And then a little bit of space for us down here. All right, I'm ready. Don't forget the ventilation, says Johnny. And I think in this case we don't need it. Especially my character. Oh, I'm ready.
uplink ready. Triangulation initiated.
Oh, was it Home Alone?
Triangulation zone, or we will lose the connection.
Yeah, Piers says the Polka King of the West was from Home Alone. Oh, heck, Piers. Yeah, they added somewhat recently a angle meter.
Let there be light.
So I'm able to make sure I'm making a perfectly sort of horizontal tunnel by keeping it locked at, well, not locked, but trying to hold it right at 0 degrees. Well, so John Candy played the Polka King of the West as sort of the Midwest as a side character in a show. I thought it was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but Piers is saying Home Alone, and I'm inclined to believe him. So, Patrick Smith says, yeah, Home Alone 2 or New York, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure which one it was. But, Nero says, what happened to the demo man? Well, remember, so Slots is just talking about, like, well, the spy is a Frenchman, right? The the soldier and the engineer and the scout are Americans, right? Oh, this is going to be nearby. You can see this blink right by us. Oh! Right? You know what I'm saying? Like...
Fuel cells arrived. Connect them to the drop pod by dragging out the charge cable.
What's it called? Yeah, we should basically be able to stay here. Like the medic in Team Fortress 2 is a German.
Connected to drop pod.
Well,
Fuel cells
the
for charge sequence.
demo man in Team Fortress 2 is the Scotsman, right? Like, he's Scottish. So instead of getting like imagine if you made a game and you said, oh, well, I'm going to include a Swede in my game. And you included someone who's not ethnically Swedish, right?
Fuel
Oh, I'm
cells
ready.
charging. Stay close to keep them operational. We're expecting an increase in hostiles.
This is very fortuitous to have such a nearby location. I can basically keep my same spot. So can KNet. We only have to make 2 bunkers. Just 1 bunker. And we're done. Now we can't call down a supply pod down here like we could if we had an engineer because, you know, there's no one to plug the hole that it makes.
Fuel cells at 50%.
Victorian says he's wrong. It was plane, trains, and automobiles. Well, I mean, I'm not super concerned about which one it was. I mean, I'm not. I've never been big onto Hollywood films, right? I've watched some, but like, you know, most people when they talk to me, they're like, "Oh, you haven't seen this movie?" And it's like, "No." And then we have that same sort of conversation over and over and over, where they're like, "Well, you haven't seen this movie either, or this one, or this one. What do you do with your life?" You know, like, what do I do with my life? Well, I'm certainly not necessarily, you know, waiting for the next Hollywood propaganda film, you know. It's just not my kind of thing. Nero says, "Oh, I thought there was some new pause development with the Demo Man." No, I think it's just the same 20-year-old thing. I mean, on some level, they made the Scotsman not Scottish, right? Uh-oh. Right, so that being said, they did acknowledge that in the game. So when the soldier dominates the Demo Man, right? So like dominate in Team Fortress 2 is when you get like a number of unanswered kills. Like if one player beats another player multiple times without the other player being able to get a kill back on him, you can get a domination, right? Now, when the soldier dominates the Demo Man, the soldier says something to the effect of, "You are a black Scottish Cyclops, and I hate you," or something like that. And the Cyclops is because the Demo Man has one eye, right? So Demo Man has an eye patch, right? Well, the fact that he says black Scottish is in some way a recognition that he's not Scottish, right? Like, if Demo Man was a Scot by blood, you would just call him a Scot. Saying he's a black Scottish Cyclops implies that, well, you're not a Scot, but you are an African who lived in Scotland. Nero says, "Thoughts on Drive? Loved the movie when it came out. But the main character sacrifices himself for a single mom and her mixed child." Never seen it. I don't know anything about it, other than what you've said just there. And it kind of reminds me, it's, I was talking about this with Krogan, like, when we were at the end of Deus Ex Human Revolution, when you have these sort of videos, those clips that they were playing, a lot of times when television shows and movies and video essays and generally just, propaganda videos on YouTube, will talk about, like, humanity, right? They'll be like, they really like to sort of, their visual aid for, like, humanity is, like, non-white children. You see a lot of times, like, African children or Indian children or, and it's interesting because, Krogan's just saying, like, are these people, like, more human? I mean, there's something about their existence that, like, typifies humanity in the way that, like, other people don't. There's just something special about, like, when you say, like, humanity and and then you show pictures of, like, smiling brown children. So I think if what you say about is correct about the driver thing, it's like to sacrifice yourself for some mixed kid, it's like you're preserving more humanity than if you were sacrificing yourself for a white kid on some level.
Mission selected and locked in. Time to
Knat says, makes me think of Blood Diamond. Never heard of that. The white protagonist dies in the end, so the black man and his family can move to England. Oh boy. Johnny 5K says, had to fact checked. Home Alone Gus Polinski, the Polka King of the Midwest, is a minor character from Home Alone in 1990. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was Polka King of the Midwest. I forgot it was Gus Polinski. He was played by the late John Candy. Yep. Where are we going? Oh, we don't need beer for this. We don't need this beer for that. Probably. Unless there's a bunch of... What's it called? Jadis or something in the wall? Well, actually, where is... This is the fungus bogs? Oh, too late. C says, I think part of it is trying to represent scope by going beyond their own borders. It's not just anti-white sentiment. Yeah, I could see that. That being said, you would think at least sometimes you'd end up within your own borders, right? I mean, are you talking about the idea that, like, when it's time to represent humanity, it's like, when it's time to, like, represent humanity in a good light, and, like, have a positive emotional appeal, it's, like, always brown children? That's what you're talking about? We're sort of reaching beyond our borders, sort of thing? Bring it back, boys. Now, I think we might have gone through some... Yeah. You can always check the hole after this thing comes in. It sometimes knocks minerals off the ceiling. And it'll be in the hole. After. Where am I going? Oh. Down here. Oh. Nero says, one of the most iconic songs used in Drive is called Goodbye Uncle Tom. And the album cover has a blonde girl holding hands with a black boy. More innocent / naive times when I didn't see much in that. Uh-oh. I hear Mactera. Now, is this a mushroom?
Mushroom!
Mushroom.
Mushroom!
Mushroom.
Mushroom!
Mushroom.
Mushroom!
That's a mushroom.
Mushroom!
Mushroom.
Mushroom.
Mushroom!
Mushroom.
Mushroom! Rock solid!
Good job. Good job. All right. So, uh-oh. Slot says it's a demonstration of what those predators... What?
Let there be light.
Predators? Is this a word I don't know? Have been bombarded with their lives? Oh, with all their lives? Non-whites are the only ones... I wouldn't say they're the only ones called human, but there is this sort of notion that, like, when it's time to demonstrate nice humanity, right? Like, if they're going to demonstrate in some of these films, like, some sort of evil in humanity, oh, that's not where I want to be. You know, they might do, like, some sort of Wall Street greed notion or whatever, but, you know, when it's time to, like, display, like, a representation of, like, the good of humanity and, like, nice, smiling people who are innocent, they're gonna present, you know, brown children. And I mean, like, okay, so, like, innocent. This is an important word. It's an important concept. If part of our mainstream narrative is that whites are oppressors, then whites can't truly be innocent, right?
We're rich. We're rich. We're rich.
So when it's time to have, like, humanity as an innocent, good thing, like, you don't want to put more men than you have to. You'd prefer women, and you don't want to put more whites. You'd prefer non-whites because the idea is, like, this sort of white male patriarchy oppressor class, right? The white male patriarchy. So C says they may be trying to appear global, right? If it's to represent humanity in general. So they show some non-white. And, like, again, I totally can agree that may be part of it. But the point is that it's almost exclusively non-white when it's time to represent that sort of good, innocent humanity, right? See if I can get this with my pickaxe. There we go. And get rid of this. Watch out for all these eggs. Uh-oh. I hear that behind me.
Like these things weren't bad enough alive.
Boom. So these glyphid eggs...
This is dangerous. It is dangerous.
Don't get too close.
If you open it, it's got a glyphid swarmer inside. And I think there can be a couple of swarmers. Creators. Oh, instead of creditors or whatever. I mean, like, when it comes to the appearing global thing, right? When you have that sort of, like, that sort of iconic picture of, like, all the different colored hands, like, all holding each other in the center, right? Like, that's totally, to some degree, what that's about, right?
There is more kind here.
But I think there's another thing going on for some of this other stuff we're talking about. I'm not saying you're, like, wrong, C. It's just, like a combination. Why don't you go...
Boys, are you blind? Look over here.
You need help with that? Where do we do a resupply pod? No, that was from the last game. Oh. Boom. Nitro everywhere. Marvelous says it might just be a quirk of liberals. Starving African children in Africa gets bigger applause than feeding ones here. Right, that's true. So, like, there is some sort of, like, some people, like, may view them as more human than us, and then other people are just engaging in, like, sort of status-seeking behavior, including status-seeking among those other people, right? So, like, it might not be their values necessarily, it's just the values that they're working up through. In the same way,
Got a blip the size of a drop pod. Brace for swarm, team.
so, what's that thing? So if you ever watched
Wally's on the way.
Cigar Stream, Academic Agent, the one I was on, with, Edward Dutton,
I repeat, swarm.
one of the things that got mentioned was, Academic Agent mentioned he had trans friends who have been trans for a long time, and he noticed that some of the people he observed identifying as trans now seemed different than the ones he knew in the past, in that he called them potentially like a trans grifter, like sort of doing it for attention or whatever. And you know, Edward Dutton pointed out, you know, like, you know, this can on some level be status-seeking behavior, and like it's bad to be the oppressor and it's good to be the oppressed, right? And if trans are oppressed, you know, one of the ways you can potentially, at the time in our society as it is seek status, is to, like, prove your cred as oppressed. I forget exactly how we got on this topic. Oh, yeah. Just, Marvel is saying it was a quirk of liberals. You know, it's like the liberals could have a quirk, and then there's also people who need to, like, status seek for their career amongst those liberals. So they end up, like, doing things. Okay, so Kanak can probably hear it. You can all probably hear it. You hear a dwarf calling for help. Right? Come and rescue me. You hear that? Come and rescue me. But it's got a metallic sound. So this is the save me, the robot, oh gosh. It's the other mining corporation that has automated their systems, so they're all robots. And now they're here to try and lure us in with cries for help. Nero says, what would you do with your economic legacy if you had no children? Hard to think of an organization that's truly pro-right. We always do, American Renaissance. Piers says, enjoying it so far, still in the first chapter. Oh, talking to Mr. Gladius, something. Alright. Make sure you keep your distance from this thing. Once we find it. Here it is.
Nemesis! Explosives, boys!
Keep your distance from this bastard. I don't have the damage upgrades, so I got it to half health with that.
Nemesis spotted.
Oh, force field. Okay, gotta keep the distance. It will grab onto you, and if it grabs onto you, you're dead. I don't think there's any way to save you once it's grabbed onto you. Oh, I meant to,
Nemesis is no more.
We rock!
Okay, now the second part of this.
Next time, let's go somewhere nice.
Wait for it. Oh, here's the bombs.
Line is up.
It's summoning explosions all over. Luckily, they're mostly on KNAT. Didn't have too many on me. Makes it easy for me.
Yeah.
Did he drop a core?
I'm gonna kill you all.
The robot, it should leave a core somewhere. What is this? Why is it so light here? Oh, it's probably a flare. I have a little mod on where the flares turn invisible or whatever. Saves on resources. 1 second.
Let's get them in.
Okay. I guess there's no core. I don't know where the core is. I don't think there is one.
Axe on, axe off.
Come and rescue me, fellow dwarf. Exactly. That's what he's doing. Johnny 5K says, how deep does that force field go? Just a thought, you could dig underground. It's gone past if not too deep. It does penetrate the ground a bit. And again, if you dig down, if it can get close to you and grab you with its claws, it'll just kill you. It'll just wipe you out. So you gotta like maintain distance. That's like it's like the number one, maintaining distance.
The resupply is here. Ready to kill some more crates.
Johnny 5K says, do you think the ADL changed their definitions of racism more to their previous one because some people thought they are white? I mean, I think they did it because of major pushback.
I'm taking some of
But
the
they
ammo.
didn't, like, revert it totally. We looked at it on stream.
That damn tin can.
Let me see if I can bring that up in a side window real quick. ADL definition.
Lights up.
Face it. See if you can get that nitro.
Secondary objective completed. Now finish the job.
Let me see if I can bring it up. Oh gosh. I hate the internet. Can we just get a link? My god. I hate this crap. Can anyone just link me to the ADL's definition of racism at some point, please? I'd appreciate that. But we can talk about it in a second, once I get a link for it. Nero says, just because the Nemesis looks different doesn't mean he doesn't need your help. Instead of shooting him, educate him. He could be a dwarf, just as much of a dwarf as anyone. Well, exactly. Second Head says, Embargo, do you think it's possible in America that something like Orania shows up in the near future? And he says he means de jure segregation and not de facto. Well, and I wouldn't use the word segregation, right? Segregation is like a legal thing.
Things about to go
Um, So separation. And there already is a lot of de jure separation in America, right? And Orania is more like de facto than de jure compared to like America, where like there's a lot of separation just because people prefer it, right? As far as like the idea of a white town that is in any way sort of explicit about any sort of identity, so like Orania's like saying, hey, this is this Afrikaner identity thing, to come in here you gotta be a part of this. That being said, like if you want to subscribe to this identity while being any race, you can come in, right? That's kind of their thing. I don't foresee that happening here, no. I mean, the amount of legal pressure on preventing something like that, it would be absolutely huge here, right? Like, they're not going to tolerate it in the same way it was tolerated when that was built, because Orania probably couldn't even be built today. It was built like around the end of apartheid, right?
Button on the mule is activated. Bring it
So I
on.
mean, it got established at a certain time when that was more possible, I feel.
Flares up.
And modern day America is nothing sort of like around that time in South Africa. So I don't see Orania popping up here. I feel like if you went to the Alaskan wilderness, just away from everyone, and you're like, okay, we're gonna do a white thing. Oh gosh, you'd have the anti-whites all over you. They'd be like, we need to nuke that town. They'd openly advocate for your death. I mean, could it potentially be some sort of thing that's done, and even if it's not sort of successful, it still like advances the conversation and is useful? I mean, like, yeah, theoretically. Although, kinda doubt it. I mean, I want things to get better. But I'm just not sure that's how they will.
Let there be light.
Piers says... Oh, Piers is talking to Gladius. Alright. Is there anything left in here? So, when you look around here, the minerals will often glow, but that's not a mineral we need. So, the only reason... Like, yes, we're done. Oh, you walked right by this. We're done, but like, one of the things to know about this type of mission is that, let's take a look at the miner's manual. Planetary region. Where are we? Fungus bogs? Yeah. So there's Krappa and Jadis in this region. And whenever you get to the bottom of a cave, which we're not actually at here, I guess. What is this? Okay, let me see. The last room in a mining mission always has the most of the special minerals. Krappa and Jadis. Krappa and Jadis for this biome. So a lot of times if you're anywhere near that last room, people like to search the last room and at least grab those precious minerals. And again, I probably don't need any of them. Although KNAT might. But once I'm out of wherever I am... Okay, it's just a loop. We can go ahead and do another resupply here.
Just take your sweet time, old lady. I've got all...
Stand back. Supply pod inbound.
Second Hat says, would you move to New Orania if it shows itself of being legitimate and self-sustaining?
Time to restock.
Yeah, probably.
Grabbing ammo.
Right? I mean, like, there's a lot of potential benefit that could come from moving to a place like that. Not just in terms of your own life, but, like, if a place like that was started and started to do well, it would be of the absolute utmost importance that it starts to get documented from our side, so to
Drop
speak,
pod has arrived.
right?
The mule has been called back.
Look over here.
And what I mean is, like,
Departing in T-minus 5 minutes.
the regime media is going to say things about what's happening there. And you need as much sort of your own media exposure, which means ultimately social media exposure, so that you can show people what you're actually doing. So when the regime media potentially engages in a lot of deceit about what you're doing and who you are, that people maybe don't fully trust it.
Freeze!
Want something?
Let's see if I can drill fairly steeply. And right here,
Drop
I can
pod
go
departing in
like
T-minus
this.
4 minutes.
Oh, a decent way more to go. Ah,
Let's head for the drop.
so where is Molly? Molly's still... Well, Molly's close by.
Pesticide coming up!
I don't want to drill all the way up until Molly's in the drop pod.
Lloyd!
Slot says, the most destructive force in the world is the attempted erasure of whites. The attempted erasure of the white will to belong to their own people. I mean, it's pretty big. For sure.
Lloyd is up!
Have a bullet in the face.
Alright,
Drop pod departing in T-minus 3 minutes.
here we go. I'm rolling out the red
You're
carpet with the
secured.
drills.
Initiating launch sequence. Rock Galactic thanks you for your good work. Drop pod will leave with or without you.
Stone heart!
Retrieving escape pod.
Rock and stone.
You know, if, like, there was a new Orania, like, I hope you all kind of understand what I'm saying. What I want is that, well, we all know that CNN, Fox, major news outlets will tell horrific stories of how bad the place is and how bad the people are, right? What's important is that the people there should be documenting it. So, like, you can pick up a live stream or videos showing what life is like there, and you find, like, sort of normalish white people, gardening, farming, ranching, building houses, you know, they tell jokes that aren't even hurtful. There's like Sven and Oli jokes, if you know Sven and Oli. There's, you know, it's sort of natural humor. Maybe Laurel and Hardy.
You remember how dumb I used to be?
Yeah?
Well, I'm better now.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear it.
I'm better now. Oh, love Laurel and Hardy. Gary says, that's a very smart stream title after recent events. What did I name it? Let me bring it up. Shoot bugs with me? Oh. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Just avoid the term shoot or something? I mean, so no one linked me to the ADL, huh? Where is this link? ADL racism definition link. God, the internet is such a... Let's see if I can... Oh, gosh. Okay, ADL education racism. So it's education. No, man.
Please don't kick the barrels into the launch bay.
Maybe we,
Launch thrusters
maybe they
will
took
not
it down.
move.
Maybe they took the whole webpage down. Because when we looked at the ADL's definition of racism, they they changed the initial. So they changed the definition to be like, hey, it's discrimination on racial lines, to basically saying it's white people, right? It's saying like white people do this thing, right? And it's called racism, because whites are oppressive. And then they sort of changed the definition of racism back somewhat, but every other piece of information on the page still, in combination with the definition, had the same meaning, in that it's what white people do, right? So, like, even when, like, people were clapping their hands and be like, we made the ADL change the definition back to being non-judge, you know, like, not indicting whites. Not indicting an entire race of people, right? They still were doing that, right? People just didn't read the rest of the page, which, well, whatever. Second Hat says, what political system do you think works best? Democracy, monarchy, etc. Well, I mean, obviously, humans are flawed animals. Humans are flawed creatures. None of the systems work perfectly because the people aren't perfect. Okay, we're gonna do my very lame egg hunt. So, let's just get at this. We do want the beer for this one, though.
Backbreaker stout.
You know, and I made that video. Race is pre-political. Because that's sort of my perspective, that race is sort of primordial and comes before politics.
Yes.
So, like, you don't hear me talk about, like, you don't hear me crap talk democracy or this or that much, because we've got other more pressing issues. There's advantages and disadvantages to those. Ultimately, I just that's not something I want to get into, like, really big.
Wake me up when we land.
Second Hat says, never understood why these people don't try to shoot. Oh, well, I can't read that. What? You know what they should do? Not shoot people. You know? If any of you are thinking about doing something really dumb, don't do it. It's a bad idea. You know?
Find them, store them in Molly, and return. Simple.
You know, one of the things that I've sort of tried to get across with my video is that, like, we're gonna see more and more sort of ethnic conflict and ethnic violence as these communities, these countries become more multi-ethnic. This is just, like, inevitable. So I'm here, like, trying to prevent this sort of thing from happening and explaining that, like, hey, this is gonna keep happening, and it's gonna happen more frequently and more violently if we allow this sort of stuff to continue, and, you know, then the anti-whites will say something like, well, it's because you're saying those things that people are getting violent. And it's like, most of those people came, no. Oh my god. Acid spitters. 3 acid spitters.
I hate nature.
I hate nature? I don't know about that voice line. I don't know about hating nature. Gosh, look at that tunnel that goes way up there. I could go over there. There is an egg over there. Yeah, it's this tunnel. What I would like... So, for those of you guys who feel frustrated, right? With the way things are going. With the demographic change. With the anti-white narrative. And all this bad stuff that's happening. You know, I'd rather have you... Rather than, like, directing that sort of frustration into something hateful and violent, I'd rather have you directed into something constructive and loving. You know, something for our people. Like, if there was a new Orania, I'd prefer you, like, engaging in that and creating good things for your family, having a family, white children, etc. Not just trying to, you know, do something bad. No. I'm keeping this.
Need a new canister. Getting tired of this old rust bucket.
Now you can take it. Or I can... Oh, called it at just the wrong time. That's fine. Johnny 5K says it just gives more weapons to the other side. Right. Well, I mean, you know, it's like every sort of mass shooting, you know, you'll see the accounts on Twitter, they'll be like, oh, another white guy, and then they'll have to delete their posts, right? Because it's not another white guy. And it goes on and on and on, where they're like, the reality doesn't fit their narrative of, like, the evil white man going around and killing everyone else. And then it's like, finally, this happens, you know, and it's like, oh god, they're so excited, you know, it's like the red meat that they've been dying for. It's finally here, the biggest, juiciest steak. I mean, you see it happening. I mentioned on Twitter and Telegram, you know, it's like, you might remember last year there was another shooting at a grocery store where 10 people of a race were killed, and it was a Middle Easterner shooting and killing 10 white people in Boulder, Colorado. And that story is, like, basically forgotten at this point, right? This story will have a lot more legs in the media, right? We're going to be talking about this for a long time. We're going to be talking about, you know, with the Boulder story. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You get by a cave leech? You're so far away. Where are you? Oh, crap. Whoa, did you use an ability to get out of there? Okay.
The wave is significantly diminished. Well done, team.
Deep Rock seriously
Okay.
need to invest in some stuff on dead.
Yeah, that ability that breaks cave leeches, that's a good one to have, especially if you're going to be operating independently. But, like, you know, when that certain event happened last summer, or last year, March, right? With the Middle Eastern guy shooting and killing 10 white people. That didn't precipitate out a conversation about his race being especially,
Over here.
you know, harmful or bad for us, and we needing to watch out for people like him. But, like, now that a white guy did it, this is the conversation we're going to have. We're going to talk about that guy's race being like a risk to everyone else, and oh, the leftists, the anti-whites, the media, they're just loving it. They're like, finally, that thing that we say is happening all the time but isn't, it finally actually happens, so we can talk about it again. Only not hypothetically.
Ollie.
One, heading to the mule.
So, I mean, they're all just super excited about it. Become the Orania you want to see in the world. Yeah, didn't Gandhi say that?
Yeah, give me some sugar. Hey, I'll knock you in the way.
Let's grab this one while I'm here. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Let's bring resupply down here.
Supply pod requisitioned. Launching now.
And grab this.
The wave is almost over. Wipe out what's left.
Oh, I thought that was a bulk detonator for a second. I was like, uh-oh. It's just a regular Praetorian.
Resupply arrived.
Just a little baby Praetorian. Is that an acid spitter up here? Oh, there it is. there's one.
Die like your mother did.
Those acid spitters are the worst thing. Okay, how we doing on eggs? One more egg, huh? Get this. Look at that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Second Hat says, if I had the money, I'd give the artificial island a try. You need a lot of money for that.
Grabbing ammo.
Second Hat says, getting a group of people to come might be hard still. Though a group of farmers will be the likely stock. I'd probably, if I was looking to like, okay, well here we've got a new piece of land and we need to farm it. Also, I like artificial farming an artificial island, you know, it's like. K-Nat says need 2 more flowers. Well, that's all on you, kid. I mean, you got the one with the grappling hook. But when it's an artificial island, I mean, I don't even know what you have to do to prepare the soil for farming. Although you could do probably aquaculture. And the first group that I'd probably be interested in reaching out to if you needed a bunch of hardworking farmers who were gonna, you know, start a new life somewhere safe. Probably the South African farmers, right? The ones being targeted for racial violence, murder. Those are the people I'd be reaching out to. Get your butt out here and... I mean, just look at, like... Is it bad here in Europe? Is it bad here in the United States? Yes, it's bad. But look at South Africa. Right? That's really bad. A lot of whites aren't going around killing people there, right? Slot says anti-whites suck. Oh, yeah. Yep. Nero says, ever been depressed / blackpilled? How did you get out of it? I like to remember I'm part of something greater than my life, and even if I failed to change it in my lifetime, I can contribute to well-being and victories of the future generations. Yeah, I mean, that's... We are in a multi-generational struggle for the soul and future of our people, right? It's not going to be... Probably not going to be solved in your lifetime. I mean, we could make progress, but in terms of like, oh, well, it's fixed. Probably not. Hey, Nat, did you get the flowers yet? Oh, you got one. That's okay, because I got the other one. Or at least an other one.
Well done. Secondary objective completed.
Bloody bucket was bigger. A lot.
That's how you do it. Drop pod is on the way.
Okay, so down and probably over there somewhere. Oh. Here we go.
Drop pod has arrived.
Whoa.
Retrieving the mule. Drop pod departing
You know,
in T-5
so
minutes.
in terms of the black pilled thing, right? Like, some people are sort of banking their happiness on us winning. You know, it's like they're like, okay, well, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to be willing to push back, we got to fight, so to speak, right, against this nonsense. And if they think that we're not going to win, they want to give up, right? But the reason you fight is because it's your job to fight. Not because victory is assured, right? So, I want you to think of imagine a cabin in the woods, and a man and his wife and their children are there. When the wolf is at their door, the man will protect the family. Even if he is destined to lose, it is still his fight to fight. It is still his job to go in front of his own children and, you know, engage in that quote-unquote fight. And again, we're not talking about physical fighting here, but like cultural fight, that sort of deal. Like,
This is it,
it's not like, oh well, if we can't win, I'll just give up. It's like part of your obligation as a member of our tribe is, now that you recognize how bad this is, it's to push back. Even if you can't personally claim victory in your lifetime. Like, it's your job to fight. And by fighting, not by winning, but by just the fighting, you will have been doing the correct thing, something honorable and worth celebrating, right? Anton says that I would say that the total and extreme censorship of speech is to blame for people resorting to acts of violence. I think there is something to that. When you get to have a Twitter account and you get to argue with, like, anti-whites, you feel like you have some sort of outlet, right, for engaging in a cultural battle. If you get your Twitter banned, and if your YouTube gets banned, if your YouTube gets shadow banned, you know, we brought up my YouTube channel yesterday, and we have age-restricted videos where, like, yeah, people aren't going to see them, right? If people are left feeling like they have no way to have any sort of say in their surroundings, they can't even speak out against the things they don't like, that is something that could push people towards violence. Although I would say that, like, when you see a violent act like the one we saw recently, I mean, those tend to be, like, more volatile people who might be more prone to violence in general, right? You kind of see that with every movement. Like, you know, you remember the pipeline through the, where are you? The pipeline through, the Indian territory, right? You have lots of people who didn't like that, right? Okay. And I'm one of those people, right? I didn't like the idea of... I don't know what I'm watching. I didn't like the idea of people outside the reservation, like just government, being able to tell the Indians on their own reservation that they had to have a pipeline through it, right? I didn't like that. But, you know, like, in that crowd of people who are displeased with the way things are, there might be a couple who react violently because they're just prone to violence. That's kind of that way with every movement. And obviously, if that movement is something that the regime media doesn't like, they will try and use that violent act to... they would try and use that violent act to discredit the whole movement, right? Slot says, what's the lore behind Die Like Your Mother Did? Is every world's queen eliminated before mining? I don't think so. I think it's just a general insult at the mother, at the, like, it's saying, like, your mom dead. I mean, it's a cruel thing to say, right? No! K-Nat, look behind you. You have 0 score. And in the lower right, you can see how many barrels you kicked. You're really bad at this. Like 40 barrels, 0 score.
That's pretty.
Second Hat says, I'm not advocating anything. I just found it weird how shooters go towards just random everyday people. Yeah, it does seem to be. I mean, it's like they shouldn't be shooting anyone. Let's just keep it at that. They have more.
No!
Johnny 5K says they have a good reason. So they have, the regime is going to say, like, oh, great, this is our chance to have tighter rules for speaking on immigration and interior politics because of this one guy, right? Yep.
Not again.
Piers says, seems like at least a 5-minute lag between me and chat. I don't think it's 5 minutes. I did, like, have to scroll up. Like, there are times where I scroll up and read things that I've missed, and then I scroll down and I try and catch up. That being said, there is always lag, and some days the lag is much worse. Like, some days the lag is like a minute or so. So right now I'm reading this at 15:15, right? So if you look at your clock, it should say something 15. Unless you're in a weird time zone. I know I've heard that before. Have you ever... I've seen decently smart people sort of arrogantly ask someone, how many time zones are there? And when the other person was like, oh, I have no idea, they were like, oh, you stupid, it's obvious, there's 24. Can't you know anything? You know, these sort of arrogant people who are who want to find proof of their own intelligence over others. The reality is that there's like 50-something time zones in the world, if not 60. Because there's a bunch of these weird time zones, like quarter-hour and half-hour time zones. So it might not be 15 past where you're at. Well, I mean, it's not 15 past for me anymore. It's 16 past. One second. So, Johnny 5K says they see speech spreading like a virus, and it has to be stopped completely to have happiness and peace around the world. Well, I'm not sure if they necessarily believe in happiness and peace around the world. I think they believe in winning to some degree. Second Hat says, aren't Indian reservations micro-ethno nations? I hear they make bank on casinos, but suffer from alcohol. Right, they do. Is there really 24 time zones as slots? Well, there's a lot more, right? But, so they are nations, right? When you hear about the Indian reservations, you will hear about, like, the Sioux Nation. Or, you know, these different tribal nations. Like, it's an actual correct understanding of nation. The nation is the people, not the country, right? So the American nation, as understood by the Founding Fathers, would be, like, sort of the Europeans who made the country and who were citizens at the time. You could have other people in the country, but they weren't part of the nation. Like, Indians aren't part of our nation, they're part of their own nations, right? So, yeah. Second Hat says, I have no concept of time zones because my country is so small I've never had to use any use in learning them. Well, if you travel much, you will. But, yeah. Anyway. So, let's see. He's got this mission, and I've got this mission. We'll do this one. This is going to be a shield disruption mission. So, no shields.
Stop it now.
Let me take a look here. I might go engineer for this, even though my class is sort of maxed out.
And exterminate. That's how it's done.
Alright, KNet. So, you want the perk for... you have Heightened Senses perk, right? On your Scout. So for this, I'm gonna lay platforms on the walls as the drill dozer goes through, and do your best to grab them as we go. Because we want to get through this. Piers says Australia has 3 hours difference from coast to coast. You don't have Heightened Senses? You should consider getting it. If you can. United States coast to coast is, like, coast to coast. Like, as people think of it, often is 4 hours. But remember, of course, Alaska is mainland North America. And that's got another time zone at least in terms of mainland Alaska. Possibly 2, especially when you get out to the Aleutian Islands, and Hawaii's on the next one after that. So that's 6 time zones. And then we also have territories like Guam. I mean, there's a bunch of time zones that are covered. Okay, well, you know, KNAT doesn't have heightened senses.
Move it, guys.
We're all gonna die because of it, but that's okay. We'll just try it anyway. Slot says that Imminent Rain's new song is releasing in 1.6 hours? 1.6? Oh, okay. Hey, Ando, how's it going? Johnny5K says, didn't they have some kind of clock? What would have the same time around the world? Well, there's UTC. And there's, like, that universal clock that Unix-based operating systems use, or whatever.
Has anyone seen
There's
my
those.
dick?
I mean, we could all just start using UTC. It's just that, like, what time, what is morning would be different everywhere.
Flares up. Platform up.
This time we're after an Omeran Heartstone. In order to
Okay,
extract
so
it,
let's
we're sending in an
look
autonomous
around.
drill dozer
Wait.
to support you. The drill dozer will automatically home in on the Heartstone, so your job will be to escort it and keep it running. Good luck, miners.
Do we go from...
Watch out.
We went from
Drill
just me
dozer
and KNAT
approaching
this whole
landing
time,
zone.
and now all of a sudden we got a whole crew.
One platform.
What's up with that?
Ready to use.
Also, this is gonna break that. Uh-oh. Now that mineral's inaccessible. Isn't it?
I'm full. Where's Smalley?
Well, whatever.
Worthless, but one.
I mean, it's not needed, so...
Your team is getting bigger. Dwarf inbound.
Platform.
Alright, well...
It's awesome that you're joining our team. Molly, come here.
Second Hat says, I read an article that said Native Americans rose with 80% in the last decade. What do you mean, rose? You mean their population increased? Yet I believe the majority is just white people claiming to be Indian in order to escape discrimination and education. Right.
You heard the man. Let's stay close to the red end. Keep the bugs away from her.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of white people sort of like identifying as other groups for
Explosives.
reasons. Economic, political, right? It's advantageous to be able to claim that you are some certain groups.
Now declares me.
All right, KNAT. Yo, there we go. There's the there's what I was looking for.
Cluster grenade.
The
What's the plasma?
I was looking for God, what was it called? A flare. Nah, I probably built that in the wrong direction, really.
Praetorian.
No, it'll be fine. Oh my god. Hey, Nat. You're not supposed to die. That's a problem. Oh my gosh.
Stopped. Fuel canisters are all dry as a bone. Refill them, and we will have this show on the road again soon.
Well, there we go.
Sentry done. Go get him, boy.
Second Hat says, wonder how the Indian nations
One more, lads.
deal with the influx of white people claiming they're one of them. Well, I think a lot of them are willing to engage in some amount of genetic testing, right? There's always been some amount of, like, hey, you have to be at least this native to be native. Like, there are requirements, like, about how much of their blood you need to have before you're a member of their tribe, right? That's common. Now, the fact that there's also, like, that being said, it's not all genetic, because some of it's political. Like, you'll have situations where it's like, if you leave the tribe, you're out forever, kind of deal. Like, you can live on the res and be in the tribe, but if you, like, leave and renounce your reservation, your status as a member of the tribe, then they can keep you out forever. Because, again, like, some of these tribes own casinos, and there are financial incentives, there are reasons why, they might prefer to have fewer people, right? Sort of like fewer people to have to share everything with, right? So there are some times where, like, there are people with more blood who are not in the reservation or not a part of the tribe compared to people who have less of that blood who are in the tribe because, you know, before your mom had you, like, she left the res and she's not a member of the tribe anymore. Oh, there we go.
Access provided.
Okay. So we're done over here? Is that what's happening? Why is the Neil so far back?
Over here.
Right here, right now.
So Second Hat is quoting some...
Secondary objective completed.
One second here. So Second Hat's quoting some sort of article. And the article says, Native American population in the U.S. grew a staggering 86.5% between 2010 and 2020, according to the latest U.S. Census. A rate demographers say is impossible to achieve without immigration. Birth rates among Native Americans don't explain the massive numbers, the rise in numbers, and there's certainly no evidence of an influx of Native American expatriates returning to the U.S. Instead, individuals who previously identified as white are now claiming to be Native American. This growing movement has been captured by terms like pretendian and wannabe. Well, wannabes, that's just a... that's... Okay, I mean, like, yeah, I guess that's... Maybe that's a correct term, but it's really not, like... Doesn't capture, like, anything specific about this case, I feel. And I'm not sure how many of those people actually want to be, so much more as they just are engaging in certain financially and politically motivated behavior. And we can all just think of Elizabeth Warren, right? Elizabeth Warren talking about how she's this, that, she's Native. Because it was advantageous to claim that. Oh, gosh. Get out of here, you.
Pro tip, hotshot. We're here to shoot the ones without me. Quick, someone debug the dozer. Platform up.
Well, let's see if I can throw one right here. It'll stay there. Perfect. Pure Bavarian phenotype. Victorian says there are tribes that have like 15 people in them and they get fairly substantial sums from the government. So yeah, I mean, like, this could be, there could be tribes that are trying to restrict membership, they're trying to increase membership, there are political and financial reasons for all these things, right? So I mean, there's like, yes, there's blood and there's heritage involved and genetics and evolution, but there's also just like, you know, like me, you know, there's so many other factors too.
Has reached the Heartstone. Press the button on the dozer and start the extraction when you're ready.
Anything special over here? I'm not, oh!
Platform.
Whoop.
Come on, guys! Rock and stone!
Then I'll throw my gun up
One
here.
sentry gun, ready to be built.
Johnny 5K says, didn't Elizabeth Warren have 0.1% native blood, so she's basically Indian? Yeah, so that was very interesting for a lot of people. So she said that she was part of some native tribe, and they did some sort of, I guess someone looked at her genetics or something, and they said, well, listen, one of her great, however many ancestors may have been native partially, right?
Access provided.
So she may be like 1/1000th native.
Supply pod launched.
And then she, like, posted those results online. She was like, see? You know? And it's sort of like, whoa. You know? That's, like, she saw that 1/1000th and was like, ah, finally, I'm vindicated. It's totally legit, you know? And a lot of us were looking at it like, the average white American is like 1% native. Like, average. And it's, that's averages are maybe not super applicable to the way this works, but, the basic idea is that Elizabeth Warren is, like, less native than your average white person in the country. So... her sort of celebration about how native she is looking particularly weird. Uh-oh. Grab her.
Plasma grenade! I'm not scared of you! Taste the pickaxe!
Look at that. Perfect. So I didn't grab any ammo, right? No, I haven't. Definitely not.
Ammo.
Second Hat says we should make a football team called the Caucasians. Well, we already do have, like, the Fighting Irish and whatnot, right? I mean, there are... You know, I've heard it said, like, I've even heard natives, these, you know, Indians, say, like, well, you know, there's no football teams where they use you or this, that, and it's like, there definitely is. I mean, you heard of the Minnesota Vikings. That's not the same as being like the Minnesota Scandinavians, but on some level, it's like, those are Scandinavian warriors to some degree, right? The Vikings. And so it's just as much of an ethnic thing as, like, the Fighting Sioux. The Fighting Sioux was the team for North Dakota, University of North Dakota. So that was like a Sioux warrior in the same way that Vikings are Scandinavian warriors from a certain point in history. All I'm saying is that, like, there are people who have suggested that, like, something is being done to or in regards to the Native Americans, the Indians, in ways that, like, isn't done to anyone else, especially not whites, and it's sort of like, it kind of is done to other people, including whites, you know. It's not that.
The drill dozer has broken through the outer shell. So far, so good.
One down! Platform!
Nitro's been withdrawn. The supply
So just so you know, KNet, you don't actually have to shoot the rocks once they're above my platforms. The platforms themselves will block the rocks. So, like, when the because what happens, the way the rocks attack is they thrust themselves downwards onto the top of the drill dozer. But if the platforms are in the way, they actually impact the platforms. They take a chunk out of my platform that I have to replace. But, like, if someone were to just stand down here and repair the drill dozer and shoot the bugs, this whole phase becomes super easy. But I'll do it.
Contact. Swarm approaching the drill dozer. Hunker down. And
ZM says Celtics. Yeah.
The drill dozer is at the halfway point. Keep it running. Swarm, they're here.
Okay, I'm gonna put this here. Let's see here. Pierce says he's wearing a feather in his hair from now on. Zakuten says, where's Krogan? I don't know. I mean, he's off doing other things. I'm not sure where he's at today. Ando says, I liked when Trump called her Pocahontas. Yeah. Well, Trump had a knack for nicknames, right? He was able to come up with some really sort of funny things that really embarrassed a lot of his opponents in terms of nicknames, right? Let's see here. I gotta scroll up. Victorian says you get free healthcare, housing, college, and monthly stipend from the government if you're native, so there are huge financial incentives to claim you're native. And I think, like, the individual sort of, like, how that works depends on each tribe, right? The deals that they've made both with the federal and the state governments, and, like, what they have in terms of being able to potentially have casinos in states where gambling is otherwise illegal and that sort of thing. I mean, on some level, right, there's this... Just to give you an idea, for some of you who have never even been to the United States, right, your average white American ultimately doesn't like how things worked out with the natives in the past, right? The Native Americans, the Indians. And part of, like, penance and part of, like, the deal now is, like, listen, this or that, this treaty may not have been honored, or this, you know, for whatever happened, part of what you get today as recompense is the ability to run businesses that we would normally consider predatory and immoral, like casinos. And you can basically get rich. You know, it depends on your tribe and whether you can actually run casinos. But, like, the basic thing is, like, we're sorry, here, why don't you run this business that preys upon intellectually vulnerable white people so you can get rich? And that's kind of, like, that's kind of the idea. And that's what you sort of see in practice when you go to casinos. It's like Native Americans, the Indians, are getting rich off of intellectually vulnerable whites, and Asians to a large degree. A lot of Asians. When you go to American casinos, just go around. Go to California, go to Minnesota, go to the East Coast, go to the West Coast. You know, a lot of Asians in casinos. They seem to be, you know, like, you know, you can go probably find stats on this, but just my own sort of personal, you know, experience says that some of these, it says that some ethnic groups might be more or less susceptible to some of these tricks that get you addicted to gambling, you know? I'm on platforms.
Drop pod has arrived. Retrieving the mule.
Slot says, I prefer to create bug shooting gallery with the bug repellent platforms. I don't think I even use the bug repellent platforms. I think I have, more ammo or something instead. As you can see, I already ran out again. Like, I ran out of ammo. I suppose we could call down a supply, but I use all my things, and I don't use the bug repellent platforms.
Time to restock. Ready to kill some more crates. Going sizzler.
Whoa.
Why are you shooting at me? Getting more ammo.
Nero says, what percentage of what? I am not going to get into the particulars of this on chat. Oh, Swedish says, I would like to hear your thoughts on recent violent protests following a man exercising his free speech by publicly burning a Quran in Sweden. You know, that's something you see a lot. You've seen a lot of that over the years, right? You have a lot of white people across the West who truly believe in free speech and really want to, you know, push that limit so the limit stays far out, right? That's the basic idea. Like, if you don't say things that are on the edge, the people who want to engage in censorship will just get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And on some level, like, the most extreme positions you can take are like anything that starts to bother non-white groups, especially in some of these European countries, Muslims. My thoughts on violent protests following a man exercising his free speech is clearly we have a lot of problems trying to live together, don't we? It doesn't seem to be working. There seems to be some major issues here. You know, one of the things... Let me take a look here. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let's do V... Because I sent a letter to VDare a while ago, and it got... They put up the letter. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll also take a look at what we can do here. We could do that, or we could do this. Yeah, let's do that.
Get to work.
Do we need the beer? We don't need the beer.
Mission is ready. The pod is prepped. Get on board the drop pod.
Come on, you lazy
I'm getting in here.
bastards. We've got a
Drop
job.
sequence initiating.
Let's grab properties. I want to bring up my...
Yeah, rock and stone.
No, that's not what I want. I want this.
Let's roll.
Okay. So this is a letter I sent. Talked about the heritability of political views, among other things. Let's tape, well, I want free speech. So YouGov poll, that's hate crime. Expanding hate crimes. Support a law against hate speech. Would you support or oppose a law that would make it a crime for people to make public comments intended to stir up hatred? And again, intended to stir up hatred. I mean, someone in government gets to decide whether you intended it or not.
Hope it'll be easier than the last time. Rock and
So
stone.
we can see that the minority of whites in the United States support a law
Mining mission. Deposit your
that
cargo.
is
Mule, we'll send a drop pod to get you out.
basically the minority of whites. Most whites don't really like the idea of heavily restrictive hate speech laws that could really stamp out sort of free conversation and this stuff that we believe in. While the majority of blacks and the simple majority, 50% of Hispanics, want it. And we see that's fairly consistent through a lot of white countries where the white population is like, hey, listen, if someone says something mean about you, that's bad. You know, we need to
Platform up.
like it shouldn't be against the law to be a jerk, you know. We want to make sure that you can actually speak your mind, and like, while you shouldn't be, you know, I don't know, yelling outside someone's home about killing them or some sort of insane thing. If you believe something is true, you should be able to say it, or you should be able to express yourself in non-violent ways. And to a large degree, we can't get that reciprocated by a lot of the other groups that we're now living with, right? And they're saying, well, we won't tolerate that. And then you have some white people who are a little bit less enthusiastic about free speech, saying like, hey,
I made a platform.
We have to respect their intolerance and for free speech, right? The fact that they don't like free speech and you're trying to force free speech on them is like white supremacy and all this. And if us trying to get free speech enacted in our own countries is all of a sudden white supremacy and no longer tenable and this and that, well, on some level, that means that we really can't live together, can we? Like, that's the problem.
Light is up.
We can't live together.
There's we need an upgrade. Platform. Platforms,
I
guys.
hate nature.
All right.
There's more kind here.
Jeez, there's a big room.
Assembly. Armed and ready.
Second Hat says, I think I have only gambled like $1 or $2 in my entire life. We call it a stupid tax over here. And I'm not super, like, enthusiastic about that idea, you know, where it's like taking advantage of intellectually vulnerable people for money. I mean, like, I don't think it's good to do things like that. Like, you do see a sort of, you know, intellectual elitism among normal people. It's like, and this is what you see all over, you know, it's like people, like, you'll take a normal average everyday person, they have like 100 IQ or 105 or something, and they meet someone with like a 90 IQ, someone not that smart, and they're like, F this guy's an idiot, I hate him, right? And then they meet someone with like a 70 IQ and they're like, well, you know, this person needs help, they're significantly challenged, right? And then they're all compassionate. And, like, that seems to be somewhat of a normal human response. I don't know if there's really anything you can do about that, like, in terms of stopping it. But it is somewhat bothersome to me, like, when I see that happen. Like, I see a sort of an average intelligence person, not particularly special, shitting on people just barely below their own intelligence, but being totally compassionate for people otherwise extremely disabled. Or not extremely, but... yeah, why did you not get this? I put a platform up there for you. Well, whatever. That guy even pointed it out. Whatever. Johnny 5K says 1 Quran costs you 10 police cars. I gotta catch up on the chat here. Second Hat says, on the topic of Scandinavian anti-immigration sentiment, I really think the Mohammed-Drawing controversy of 2006 was led Denmark to have a stronger anti-immigrant attitude. Yeah, it definitely has. Victorian says, I can tell you, at least in New Mexico, only natives go to those casinos. My dad was actually told to leave because he wasn't Navajo once. Really? Kingdom of Finland, hey, how's it going? It's too late, K-Nat. I mean, you probably missed a few of them anyway.
I got the deposit.
But, Nero says it's almost a badge of honor for some Europeans, something they often repeated when being exposed to violence against whites and the shortcomings of non-white countries that they should. Yeah, I don't know what you're saying anymore. I've lost the context because I had to scroll.
Fog something! Platform up! I found some more guys.
Better than life.
What's this? I need to deposit in the mule.
I called for Molly. I have to make a deposit.
Kingdom of Inland says, I chalk the differences between the races that are against free speech and Western kind as a difference in biospirit. To some degree.
Minerals,
For sure.
and we shoot bugs in mines. Dwarf life in a nutshell.
Can do this in my sleep.
Contact. We got
Oh.
6, no, 12. A lot of aliens heading your way.
David, hey, how's it going? David says, I need to play DRG. I've done the tutorial and nothing else. Might play a bit today. Oh, it's good stuff. So Nero says, okay, treating...
The swarm is upon you.
Okay, so tolerating violence from, like, foreign ethnies. Nero says it's almost like a badge of honors for many Europeans. Well, it's like, now that, like, the idea of tolerance is, like, elevated among, above many other things, like, to be tolerant is one of the best things you can be. Well, if you can tolerate the worst things, you are the most tolerant, right? Like, someone who can tolerate minorly bad things isn't that tolerant compared to someone who can tolerate atrocious things, right? Oops. That's one of ours. But, so that's another way to think of it. It's like, if tolerance is the biggest virtue, then the most virtuous people are the people who can tolerate absolute abject insanity, right? Like killing people and burning down your city because they burned a book, right? Some guy burns a book or flushes it down the toilet, and now the whole city has to, like, go up in flames. If you can tolerate that, well, man, you're real tolerant, you know? I'll let them deal with that. They got it. I'll get this.
I need a damn minecart on legs. Where is it?
So let's see here. Ooh. Let's see if it isn't the data deposit.
Look, a prospector data deposit. Ordering a hacking pod.
Okay, you're loud and clear, team. Hacking pod is coming.
So,
Better
second
stand
hit
back.
says, Embargo, what eugenic policy would you implement
Roger
if you
that.
could?
Supplies are coming.
A base one, so he's saying like a basic, like, standard one, would be to outlaw close family relations. Like, not breeding with your sister, your brother, your cousin, right? And what's funny is, like, a lot of people would fail to recognize that as a eugenic policy when it is one, right? And there's, like, a couple people pointing that out in the world, right? There's, like, yeah. I mean, like, on Twitter, you'll see, like, actually, you know, you'll see some sort of leftist or something. They'll be like, actually, the opposition of brother-sister marriage is due to white supremacy, eugenics, you know, and it's like, it is eugenics on some level, yes, but it's not like the boogeyman version of eugenics that you might imagine. Well, I mean, people don't think about this kind of stuff, really. They're just gonna go with, you know, everyone, like, there are lots of people who can tell you that eugenics is bad, or dysgenics isn't real, or this or that, but wouldn't be able to define those words. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this. Oh, I almost had that.
Machine booting. Get ready.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. I want to bust the guy in R&D who programmed Polly.
Bam. Look at that. Which one is this? Oh, Tritolite. I wonder where this is. Got it.
Here comes the pest control.
Well, let's take a look at this
The
thing.
hacking bot landed here.
Okay.
We'll have a connection in
These
no
transmitter
time.
nodes are as light as a feather. Crispy.
I wonder if I can do it up there, maybe.
Flares up.
Yeah, just throw it. There we go. Probably only need one here. Oh, we got it. Never mind.
Pod successfully
Great.
connected to the prospector data department.
Oh gosh,
Start
where's
hacking
that?
drone when you're ready.
I made a platform.
Think I can reach that? Oh, it's right on the edge. You can
The hack
probably
has
get
begun.
that.
Protect the pod while it does
Oh,
its
they've already
magic.
started the hack?
Hacking drone under attack.
Okay. Oh, that was a close one. See if I can get this gun down real quick. Oh, I can't because that's going to explode. And then I can come back here and do it.
Keep the hacking drone secure.
Okay. Oh, that's one of ours.
We're on the same team.
The hacking drone is under attack. Keep it safe so it can work.
Sheesh. This is a really rough spot. Not a big fan of this spot. But, got all those bugs. Nice. Kingdom of Vinland says, in a way, Islam is an extension of the Arabian biospirit. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, this is one of the reasons why it's like,
Drone, now damn it.
you can have, like, so Muslims who are born in England, right, don't call their god God, even though that's the English word for God. They called their god Allah, which is the Arabic word for God. They don't want to use the
Interrupted.
English word, right? There's a resistance to that which is non-Arabic. And similarly, like, they don't want their Quran translated out of Arabic. And, you know, on some level, there's like an argument about, like, okay, well, you know, translation invites translation errors, which is real. But
Stand your ground.
there's also an element of, like, no, 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 we want it our way, and our way is the Arab way, right? This is like, there is some amount of, like, I mean, there is ethno-religious groups, fundamentally. I mean, we all know it. We've talked about it. It's documented. Okay, let's call this down over here.
Supply pod requisitioned. Launching now.
Nero says, we need to make media mocking pathological tolerance and praising standing your ground. Well, I mean, I think on some level it's like we need to redefine some of this stuff. It's like, it's about morality, fundamentally, right? I've talked about this before. White people are very moral people, right? They're very concerned with being morally correct, right? They don't want to just win. They want to be morally correct, right? It's really hard to get elected by just telling people you're going to give them nice things. Telling white people that you're going to give them nice things. I mean, if you go on Black Twitter, you can get an argument. Like, you'll see arguments about, like, what's better for their group.
Shields ready again.
But on white Twitter, it's not about what's better for your group. It's about what's better morally, right? Very concerned with morals. And the argument we're going to have is that
Hi, lads. We need to destroy the Trilolite deposit.
that they're being immoral by pushing for this multiculturalism, which will eventually lead to all sorts of multiracial conflict, you know, the sort of things that we saw at, you know, the Buffalo grocery store, at the Boulder grocery store in Colorado. These are all sort of things that are inevitable, right, on some degree, based off of this sort of multiracial biospiritual conflict. And if you really want to oppose this sort of violence, I mean, you can't argue for the things that precipitated the violence in the first place. Well, there you go. That was one of the easiest tritolite deposits of my life. I like that.
Good job, team. Core and fuse are ready.
Gosh.
Grabbing ammo.
Second Hat says, any thoughts on luxury beliefs? That rich people can afford to believe insane things because it can offset it with cost of their resources. I mean, for sure. And I mean, it's sort of like, it's, you know, there's lots of status. There's lots of ways to push and advance your status with beliefs and activism and ideas. And it's sort of like, it's not necessarily that the beliefs are necessarily going to be harmful, but it's sort of like, they're so insulated, the people pushing for them won't necessarily know, right? Status beliefs, I mean, are obviously real.
Ready to use. Deposit
Luxury
time.
beliefs are real. It would be hard to imagine
Where is that
how you can
damn
explain
mule?
things without understanding that.
I can't carry anymore.
That is a policy, Victorian. One you couldn't use. Kingdom of Vinland says, I wonder if a pagan West could work. Well, I mean, like, theoretically. All sorts of things could work.
Time to earn your paycheck, team. Got a doozy of a swarm underway.
Uh-oh.
Needs assembly.
Well, we can bum rush the mineral hoarder, potentially. Keep in mind, you have to keep someone in close distance to the mineral hoarder, so it's, to a large degree, that's the scout's job. Like, if it crawls up the wall, you gotta go up the wall with it, so it doesn't despawn.
Reloading. Your history.
Johnny 5K says, don't quote Bible if you can get to court here, even if you are rich. So I'm not sure what you're saying. Oh, I think what you're saying is that quoting the Bible in a sort of serious way is like a low status thing, right? Could harm your status. Sort of the non-luxury belief. You know, it's a belief associated with low class, whatever. Yeah, it is very interesting to see the demonization of, let's say, oh, okay, get on it. Up. No, too late. Whoa. Well. And then I'll put this in here. Oh, look at that. Perfect.
I smell bacon.
Oh, God. That could really mess those guys up if they're still down there. Those shellbacks in a small location. Yeah, look at that.
No more turrets. Shell back down.
There is nitro over here.
Uh-oh. I
Platform.
whiffed. I missed. Oh.
Platform.
Any way up? Hey, I guess there's this way.
This is a friggin'
Dakun says...
My boots. My poor boots. Ow.
Okay, one second. Zakun says, what's your take on paganism? Seems to me a lot of clever right-wingers recognize that they can't disregard Christianity but make sure not to insult paganism in any way. Well, at the end of the day,
Donkey time.
for a lot of us, the focus is about the
Platforms, please.
racial group, right? So on some level, you're gonna just try and be
Sweet.
somewhat non-offensive to
Deep Rock seriously needs to
everyone
invest
within
in
that
something
racial group's
better.
various... Oh, is the backpack over this
I
way?
made a platform.
I mean, that's going to be common, to just be non-offensive to the various racial groups' different ethnic, religious
Rest
preferences.
in peace, well, Piper. We'll get your gear home.
Oh, I probably could have gotten that flea, but too late.
Molly is on the way.
Come here, Molly.
Yeah. I'm glad we have someone to carry our rocks and stones.
Well, let's return to the paganism thing in a second. Johnny 5K says our highest prosecutor is saying that fighting hate speech is her most important mission, and we don't even have hate speech as a term in our laws. Yeah, that's rough.
Secondary objective completed. Make it home to collect your bonus.
Nero says he thinks that paganism will be a key to the survival of whites. So one of the things we could think about is,
Felt better.
you know, we could look at other groups and actions that those groups have taken for various reasons, and we could look at those actions and decide what we think may have been valuable to them, or this or that or the other. Right? One of the groups we could look
Where is
at
that damn mule?
are, you know,
Taste the
Ooh.
pickaxe!
let me bring my gun back. I forgot about that. Ooh, that was a good one.
Rock and stone,
So,
everyone.
you might know that, like, Hebrew, as it's spoken today, is a reconstructed language, right? And that certain holidays, like Hanukkah, were created intentionally for political reasons, for
Mordecai. Platforms, please.
sort of community cohesion reasons, right? You had young children growing up in these sort of Christian countries, and the Christians were all celebrating their Christmas, and some of their kids felt left out, and you know, you're sort of lacking on this sort of camaraderie, cohesion thing that was happening with the whole Christmas community. Yeah, that's right, the Christmas community. So they created holidays, they reconstructed languages to sort of unify their people to some degree. Now, could you reconstruct European religions for unity? Potentially. Could you reconstruct or use European languages for identity? For example, maybe we could start speaking reconstructed Latin. Or this, or that, or whatever. Okay, yeah, let's
I ordered a resupply.
Supply
take
drop
your
has been ordered.
resupply or two, and then we'll press the button. Okay.
None can stand before us.
Smooth as always, team. Drop pod is on the way.
Okay. Sure, the driller will
Everybody
drill us
collect
out.
ammunition.
But, certainly there is some potential utility to European religion and European languages as achieving identity, right? And cohesion within your group.
Drop pod arrived. Mule is returning to LZ.
Platform.
Drop pod departing in T-minus 5 minutes.
you know, Second Hat is suggesting that, you know, kind of going with the idea that, well, maybe some of our modern problems are due to Christianity. And the thing is, we have hundreds of years of timeline where Christians are not engaging in the sort of behavior they are now, right? So the idea that, like, Christianity was always going to lead to what Christian countries have now seems to me slightly suspect as a... What the heck? Really? There we go. These aren't supposed to explode until they're right next to a bug. I don't know what that was about. But,
Drop pod departing in T-minus 4 minutes.
I'm not necessarily fully on board with the idea that, like, Christian countries were always going to develop in the way they have here now, right?
Plasma burster!
Oh, here we go. Wow. Right next to my platform, too.
Light is up. Lights up.
Okay, where's my gun? Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, this is a... Molly, look how far away Molly is. 90 meters? We're gonna be defending this place for a long time.
Reloading!
Drop pod departing in T-minus 3 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Throwing sizzler!
Dakun says we could start speaking English. Right. I mean, a fully constructed language... I mean, not that English should be fully constructed, but something like that might seem a little contrived, right? It might be hard to get people to rally around English compared to something like reconstructed Latin or even like Old Norse or something, you know, or Proto-Indo-European, right? There is a lot of like scholastic or academic work into the reconstruction of Proto-Indo-European, and that is something we could potentially engage in, is the reconstruction of a language, right? Like Hebrew was reconstructed, and, you know, in places where there was no translation, there was no words for that back in the day, they created some new ones, right?
Departing in T-minus 2 minutes. The mule has docked, initiating launch.
I mean, we could engage in that sort of thing, and, like, on some level, it's like, where is this guy?
Come on, guys. We're leaving.
Oh, get down here.
Plasma burster!
So, on some level, like, could constructing a language help unify your people? Yes. Also, like, you might not be able to get people to adopt a reconstructed language unless they are feeling some desire for unity. You know what I mean? Like, you probably can't create that desire for unity whole cloth. Like, if they're like, no, we shouldn't be united, we should be replaced. Well, then they're probably not going to be willing to speak a sort of language or a reconstructed religion of our ancestors in pursuit of something they don't actually care about, right? And Second Hat says, atheism seems sterile. Perhaps a civil religion around the group's prosperity is needed. And Second Hat's getting into the idea that, like, you know, religion has a lot of potential, like, I mean, like, advantage in terms of group cohesion, and,
Rock and stone
you know,
forever!
it obviously does. Right. And I'd be perfectly, personally, you know, it's like, if the based Christian who had racial understanding wanted to, like, unite the West, I mean, that sounds okay to me. If the based pagans, and I don't like using that word pagan, you know, with their racial understanding want to unite the West, you know, I'd be fine with them winning, right? Or whatever. Because at the end of the day, I want our children to be able to live long into the future, and, you know, if your particular religious leaning is the correct one, then maybe they'll be able to figure that out over the next 100 or 1,000 or however many years, right? The point is they have to be able to live for them to go on that sort of journey, to find out what's true, to find enlightenment, to find God, that kind of thing. Kingdom of Vinland says, I think we've already reconstructed Old Norse and Classical Latin, right? Like, yeah, like, reconstructed Latin is pretty, like, it's had a lot of effort put into it by very smart people, and, like, we could use it potentially, or reconstructed Proto-Indo-European, right? That is a potential. And, I mean, I would consider it. Like, I would personally consider putting a bunch of my time and energy into learning Proto-Indo-European if, like, there was some sort of brotherhood movement to do so for our, you know, mutual understanding. Victorian says you could start with Esperanto as a semi-secret language. Only white people are speaking to each other. The only thing is Esperanto is, like, that's not, like, within the founding values of Esperanto. Like, there's already a bunch of Esperanto speakers, and they speak it for a very different reason, right? I think you'd be better off just using Latin.
Here's a tip. What is this?
Zakun says, I can tell you one thing. The Catholic Church caused a lot of harm with their missionary work around Asia and Africa, essentially turning the Vatican from a European institution into a global one. Well, and, you know, I think a lot of the missionary work is that you see a lot of churches engage in is, like, a pretty decent example of, like, a non-white preference, an anti-whiteism. And what I mean by that is, like, you will have lots and lots of churches across the United States that they know there are, like, atheists or non-Christians in their town, right? And they will, instead of proselytizing to them, they will save up a bunch of money to go to Africa and proselytize to Africans. So, like, they believe that their neighbor, who might even be, like, their cousin, is going to go to hell, and they're like, well, you know, I'd rather go save Africans. You know, no thanks. It's sort of like, no, give that money someone else. You know, it's like, I don't want my brother to be saved. I want the person on the other side of the world to be saved. Or what you'll even see is, like, Protestants in the United States go down to Catholic South America to proselytize to them. So trying to convert South American Catholics to Protestantism when there are, like, white atheists in their town. So not only are they picking sort of a non-white group over a white group, I mean, they're like like, they're going to go convert the Catholics in South America, right? Second Hat says, the way Christianity took over Rome is very similar to how wokeness took over America. I would say that there's definitely some similarities. You know, one of the similarities is the urban-rural divide. So, by the way, thanks, guys, for playing. That was the last game. Sorry for wasting your last couple minutes here. I'm gonna log out of the game. We'll talk for just a couple minutes on stream and then call it. You know, there's an urban-rural divide to the culture in the United States to a large degree, and there's an urban-rural divide to religion in Rome way back when. So for those of you who don't know, Christianity really took over the city, right, and the city centers, and the non-Christians were called pagans, right? That's what we're calling them. The word pagan doesn't have anything to do with religion, right? So, like, paganus or paganus, I don't know how you say it, refers to the plot of land they were on. So if you go to the Italian countryside, the sort of commoners, the peasants, who would work the land and make the food, they lived on this piece of land, and that piece of land was like pagan or paganus or something, right? So the Christian and traditional Italian religious divide was between this sort of urbanite cosmopolitan Christian versus the backwards backwater farming pagan, right? So it's like, you're the urbanite, you're sophisticated, you're this, you're that, and they're like, they live in the dirt, you know, they're farmers, they work hard, they do physical labor, and then it sort of takes over and it becomes like, well, we're Christian, they follow the traditional European religions, they're rural, we're urban, right? And this is, you know, like similar cultural battle lines exist now between what we could call woke, you know, this sort of, you know, what is a woman? I don't know, I'm not a biologist sort of thing. That's the sort of thing that only an urbanite would say today, right? Not a rural person. But in more today, it's like the, you know, urban, I don't know, atheist or spiritualist versus the rural Christian to some degree, although, like, you can find lots of pause in the Christians all over the place, and, like, when you look at paganism, as we call it, as a movement, I mean, it's like, some of them are not great, a lot of them are not great, but then there is, like, the Acid True Folk Assembly, and that's pretty good, and that's maybe a little bit more rural, and it's complicated. Yeah. Now, the reality is that, like, the people who want us to believe all this nonsense, this harmful stuff, I mean, they're going to try and put it on any of our groups, right? If there's a non-paused church, they're going to push it on the church. If there's a non-paused pagan group, they're going to push it on that group. They're going to try and break down those groups and, you know, bring them over to the agenda. If any of those groups are able to win, I'll be okay with it. David says, embargo, you playing MP with viewers? You mean multiplayer? Because I did just play 2 hours of Deep Rock Galactic with my viewers. So, yeah. Now, I will say on some level, when you look at sort of paganism, it can lend itself fairly easy to a folkish interpretation. And that is like, hey, listen, this was the religion of our ancestors long ago, and if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. It is native to us. It is something that is like truly authentically us. And we could rally around it, right? And, you know, that could be, you could do that in a way that's hostile to Christianity, and you could do that in a way that's not hostile to Christianity. After all, just look at Snorri Sturluson in Iceland. So, like, the preservation of the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson, and the writing of down of a lot of these pre-Christian myths in Iceland was done by Christians, but they were done on some level out of a sort of sense of heritage and Icelandic nationalism. I mean, so can these things coexist? I don't know. Listen, I can't tell you everything you want to hear, but Kingdom of Vinland says, where do suburbs fall in the urban versus rural thing? I think they literally and figuratively are in the middle, right? Mr. Gladius says, I'm a pragmatic man. If Christianity can be used, so be it. I mean, yeah, I mean, if, like I said, if the base Christians who have a racial understanding are ready to save our world, then I'm all for it. Yeah. But, Zekun says, have you watched Northman? No, I have not. Oh, so David, by the way, every Sunday is when I play with viewers, right? Wednesday I play a game that we go to for commentary reasons. Like, we play some game that has some ideas that it's presenting, and we analyze those ideas and talk about them and laugh at them and this and that. Saturday I play games, I talk about things that I've been thinking about all week, and Sunday we play games together and we just, you know, chew the cud, so to speak. So, well, I think that's about it for today. I mean, there's a lot going on here. I mean, I think I have gotten my sort of point across that, like, on some level, paganism may be a sort of rallying cry for, like, hey, this is something that, like, our ancient ancestors did. It's authentic to who we are. It's, you know, was passed down. It wasn't put on them or this or that. Like, could that be a thing? It could. Could language be a thing? A reconstructed language, reconstructed Latin, reconstructed Proto-Indo-European, you know? Yeah, maybe. But there's got to be that sort of desire for that. We have to want to sort of come together over a shared heritage, and a lot of whites really don't want that. Like, they're really ashamed of their heritage, and they hate themselves. You know, white guilted people are not going to rally around anything associated with us because they hate themselves for being us, right? Okay, well, I think that's about it. Thanks for everybody for showing up. I'll see you next Wednesday. We'll be playing more Expeditions Rome. That was a wild one. That was a wild game so far. You know, talking about a lot of things with ancient Rome and some of the ideas they were presenting. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a good game. We'll probably get a few good sessions out of that. And yeah. But otherwise, that's a bit of it for me. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll probably see you Wednesday. Peace out, everybody.
Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Here.